Welcome back, everybody. In this lesson, we're going to talk about making flyers, ads, and posters because they really all relate to each other. They just come in different sizes. Normally, when you put together any one of these advertisements, please be aware that you may be asked to remake this ad in different sizes. So that's something that when you're designing, just keep that in the back of your head. Now this flyer, start off with the flyer first because we actually will go through a flyer, an ad, and a poster. This flyer, we're going to go ahead and make it for a fictitious travel agency. And this company is called Dream Travel. And we're going to be advertising a trip to Paris. Now, I went ahead and made this logo. And when thinking about it for a little bit to make a quick logo for this demonstration, I went ahead and went over and grabbed a few things. And from this freesvg.org, I went ahead and grabbed a briefcase logo, which reminded me of a suitcase. So I went ahead and downloaded that. Also went and got an Eiffel Tower silhouette. And also went over and found over at Pixabay, I went ahead and found an Eiffel Tower photo and downloaded that as well. So those are a couple things that I got as resources when I was putting this together. Now, I combined the name Dream Travel and that suitcase, and I went ahead and opened up that SVG file in Illustrator, and I went ahead and reformed it so that instead of a suitcase, I made it into one of these little rolly suitcases instead with the wheels on it. And to me, this worked a little better with me coming up with the name and incorporating the suitcase into the name. The handle really didn't work when I had it on the side. So I went ahead and put it there on the top. And when I made it on the top, it actually kind of looked like a rolly suitcase to me. So I went ahead and put the two wheels on there, and that's how I got to that particular look for this demonstration. So what I did was I went ahead and set up an 8.5 by 11 with bleed, and you can see the bleeds over here already. And I went ahead and put some verbiage out here. I went ahead and did this ahead of time. This logo sitting over here was one of the variations. I wanted to see what it looked like stacked and then just all in line. And I kind of preferred the stacked version instead. So let's just go ahead and get rid of that. And I did two different layouts just to show you what we can do with the graphics that we got. If you remember, we got an actual photo of the Eiffel Tower and the silhouette of the Eiffel Tower. So I made two different layouts, and this is something when you're developing an ad that you can show to your client and see what they like better. So this first version here is with the silhouette. And what I did was I went ahead and brought the silhouette in, and I copy and pasted it over. Now let me tell you why I did that. The reason is for flexibility. And what I mean by that is by copying and pasting it over into InDesign, it is now a design element that you can change colors very easily. So for example, if they didn't like this red here that I have, we can actually select those both, and I can go over to where I have our swatches and pick a different swatch. For example, I can go ahead and go with like a dark purple instead, or a yellow, but it really doesn't work with the reverse type. You really want colors that will contrast well. So like a green would work. Or the cyan, that would work as well. But anyway, this is the one look that I gave it with this particular color, and I think it works pretty well. Your ad, when you're making an ad, should have something visual to look at, an actual theme, and a call to action. And it should have the contact information on there, such as the phone number or a website to go by. And of course, we have to have branding, so that's why you have to have your logo out there as well. So this basically gives all the information, give you a visual clue, give you some information to read, a way to contact the company, and a logo to identify that company. Alright, this is the first version. Let me switch over to the second version. And here we are with the second version with the actual photograph and the same information but a different color scheme. So here we are with the photo, and as you can tell, I've cropped it in really tight. We don't really need to see the whole Eiffel Tower. You can get away with just the front of it for the most part, and people will recognize it for what it is, just like they recognize the silhouette that is the Eiffel Tower. Here's the picture. You don't need to have the whole photo of it. Okay, so it works really well in this design. Now taking the flyer and making an ad out of it, and here's an example. The ad is size for 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, which is basically 1/4 of a page. Now the nice thing about making this flyer into an ad of this size is, and let me go ahead and show you, that the ad actually scales perfectly to the page. So I'm going to go ahead and scale this back up so you can see that when we scale it down, we're scaling back up here, that we can take the ad and it goes right back to an 8 1/2 by 11. Okay, it sizes back up no problem. That is not the case though when we make a poster. And here's a poster. If I turn around and take this poster and do the same thing, where I scale it up, and this poster size is an 11/17, so, or tabloid. Let me show you what happens when we scale it up, and I'm going to go ahead and scale it up all the way up to where it bleeds on both sides. You'll see that it doesn't scale in proportion. We actually have a gap here. So just remember that depending on what you're trying to make, it may not size correctly in scale to what the flyer did. And you have to remember that in the ad, let me go ahead and revert this back to where it was. That when you scale it down, you have to check and make sure that it is still readable, the text and everything on here, to be effective. The poster, on the other hand, it doesn't have a problem with readability, but the problem is scale. It's not scaled correctly. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to resize it. Resize your elements on the page, and let me show you what I got. Here's the resized version here. I went ahead and redid the photo so that it fits better. Thankfully, the photo I chose has some room at the top and room at the bottom for me to go ahead and adjust it so that it fits with the poster size of 1117, and it still works in relation to what the ad looks like and what the flyer looks like. So those are just some of the things you'll have to be aware of when you're creating these advertising pieces, whether it's a flyer, an ad, or a poster, because you may be called upon to create different versions of it at different sizes. So what I'd like you to do is go ahead and design a flyer at 8.5 by 11, an ad at 4 1/4 by 5.5, and a poster at 1117 or tabloid size. The design is up to you on what you want to put together. Anyway, that's all for this lesson, and we'll see you in the next video.